March means it's Women's History Month, and what I wanted to do this month was take some time to celebrate some of the great women working in sports and/or sports media in the New York metro area. So every weekend this month, we'll have a woman working in sports or sports media join me right here in studio. So joining me in studio today is a woman who has done several interviews with me already. You've seen her here. She is one of the premier newsbreakers when it comes to WNBA basketball. You can also see her talking sports betting. She is the founder of Girls Talk Sports TV and the co-host of Athletes Unlimited preview show, representing Harlem World, the one and only Khristina Williams. Khristina, so good to have you here. How you doing?
So good to be here finally with you in studio.
Thank you. I'm glad. We've done several videos, but to have you here in studio is absolutely great. First was your birthday just passed. I have to say happy birthday to you.
Thank you.
How are you doing overall?
I feel refreshed. I feel great. Yeah, it's been a great month of women's basketball. Right now, there's March Madness happening. So just continuing that momentum right now. Yeah,
continue that momentum. So we got a lot to talk about because Khristina's done such a great job in the sports media space. And Khristina, you founded Girls Talk Sports TV back in 2018. I think a lot of people in underrepresented communities, they've had to start their own outlets to get opportunities. So could you talk about what was the motivation or factor behind you founding Girls Talk Sports TV?
Yeah, absolutely. So I founded Girls Talk Sports TV on 3 principles. I wanted to give women a voice, visibility, and value in the sports industry. And so that's what I built my platform off of. And for me, it was super hard to break into the sports industry. And so instead of like waiting for an opportunity to come my way, I decided to create my own platform in Girls Talk Sports TV. And so yeah, I wanted to address that 4% of all women's sports is covered. And so just doing that, I was able to create a platform where I gave myself an opportunity, but also address that issue of unequitable media coverage for women.
Right, and you've definitely done that, right? And that has allowed you to work in the women's basketball space and covering women's basketball and becoming an insider, right?
Yeah.
And I didn't even think about this in terms of you being in this role because you're the only Black female insider in the WNBA space.
Yes.
What is it like being in that role? And how do you feel like you're inspiring the next generation of Black women that want to do what you do?
I could have never, first and foremost, imagined myself being a sports insider. That's not what I set out to do when I started Girls Talk Sports TV. It's something that just happened over time naturally as I began to build relationships in the women's sports space. And so being the only Black woman in the WNBA space as a sports insider, of course, you're going to face, those uphill battles, being the only person in that space who is a person of color. But it's been great being able to be the first to tell news stories, having fans look to you and trust you to deliver that sport news. And if I can make a way for the next person to not only be the only Black woman in that space, I mean, that makes me happy. But, I'm taking the hits and punches so that the next person don't have to.
And that's what you want to do to help pay it forward. And people have to know, look, this WNBA offseason, this woman right here has been extremely busy. I look at my phone, there's always a notification from Khristina or we're texting each other about something there. How was this offseason? What has it been like for you this offseason? Because this has been a big offseason in the WNBA. There's been a lot of activity, but you've been really busy, like I said. So what has this offseason been like, you breaking all the news that you have?
This offseason has been busier than usual. Obviously, the New York Liberty, they had some big news coming with signing Brianna Stewart, Courtney Vandersloot, and doing some trades to make super teams. Like, we're entering that super team era. So it was extremely busy in the offseason in terms of breaking news. I did not get any sleep at all. But it's great for women's sports, right? When we talk about the investment, people being more involved and engaged in women's sports, that's a true testament to how the sport is growing, how the ratings and views are growing as well. And so I think that, women's sports is set to be on a good trajectory moving forward.
Yeah, and I definitely want to talk to you about the growth of the game because the game is absolutely growing, like you said. But you talked about the era of super teams with the WNBA. So we got the Liberty, who you mentioned, the hometown team. We've got the Las Vegas Aces guys, and I think a lot of people expect those two teams to collide in the WNBA Finals this year. If that doesn't happen, Khristina, will that be a disappointment? Do we need to see those two teams in the WNBA Finals in 2023?
It would be great to see those two teams in the WNBA Finals. I mean, just elite talent at every level on both rosters. Of course, we're leaning towards the Liberty because we're here in New York, but Yeah, no, if they don't make the finals, it would be a little bit of a disappointment because, you have these top field rosters. But it'll be great for fans because they get to see all of these great teams, all of these great players compete. And so we just want more eyes on the game. So it'll help whether they make it or not. It'll just help in terms of marketing the game and telling these women's stories.
Look, I'm rooting for it, but everybody out there, we're also rooting for a Liberty championship. We're not really supposed to say that, but we did here. We are rooting for a Liberty championship. You talked about the growth of the sport, right? Yeah. Particularly WNBA, women's basketball. Are you encouraged by what you see? There's no denying the numbers. You've seen an increase in viewership. Saw it last year with the 2022 WNBA playoffs. Viewership was up for that. Are you encouraged, and what do you think is next for the league? Like, what would you say is next for the league in terms of where you think it can go or what you think the league has to do?
Right. I'm definitely encouraged by seeing the growth. Ratings are up over 22% year over year. And so that's a good testament, like I said again, to how the sport is growing and how people are starting to invest into women's basketball. And where do I see the league heading next? Obviously, expansion has been on everyone's mind. But to start in May, the WNBA is going to host their first ever Canada game. So just getting that international exposure will definitely help bring new fans in as well. And then we can think about expansion and roster expansions as well, because currently there's only 144 spots in the WNBA. And so just keeping that in the back of our minds of, okay, how do we get more opportunities for more women as the draft comes in and, just having players play stateside instead of going overseas. Then you think about like the money disparity in women and men's sport. And so all of that is on the table, but to answer your question, I think the first thing is expansion.
Expansion.
Sure.
Looks like it's going to be something that we're going to see. I don't know how soon, but it's definitely coming in terms of the WNBA. Okay, and lastly, this is the question I'm going to be asking every woman this month. So you're going to be the first person to answer this question because I think everybody that comes and sits here with me is making women's history. And I think a lot of times when we talk about history, we think about things in the past, but people currently be making history like yourself. What does making women's history mean to you?
Wow, that's a loaded question.
It is a loaded question.
What is making women history? Making women's history, I'm just a regular girl from Harlem, New York City. And so for me to be able to make the strides that I've had in such a short period of time, it just means the world to me. One, to let people know that you're not your circumstances don't define you, where you come from, and that you can do anything that you put your mind to. And just celebrating those accomplishments, big and small, means everything. And so that's what it means to be a part of history, to just submit myself in this space as a Black woman covering the WNBA.
Well, look, I'm very proud of what you're doing. You always come on here. When we talk about WNBA news, you guys have seen it before. This is who I go to. This is who I talk to. She is the plug in terms of that. Everybody should know. And this is why you're here. I appreciate you so much. I love the work you're doing. Obviously, Girls Talk Sports TV, Athletes Unlimited. Please check out the great Khristina Williams. Oh, and we got to let the people know, if you think that we both planned this to wear velvet, this was not planned at all whatsoever. We got a little bit of flyness here that we had to share together.
Great minds think alike.
Great. You know what? I like that thing. Great minds think alike. Again, that is the great Khristina Williams, first person here in the seat for Women's History Month. Khristina, thank you. Appreciate you.
Thank you for having me.
All right. Until next time, y'all. Peace.